I played with the brightness levels on this, and I don't know because I don't understand how this camera works, if I'm being fully honest here. Anyway, hi, welcome back to my third week of doing these currently reading videos. I'm enjoying sitting down and having a little chat with everyone once a week. I am in my bedroom, in my little reading nook here, my little sofa by the window. It's a very comfortable space to sit and chat. Next week I will set it up where there's not a window directly to my back, so the lighting won't be crazy, but this week we're gonna roll with it. So anyway, let's talk about the last book I finished reading, which was The Library Book by Susan Orlean. This is a pretty hyped nonfiction book that was supposedly going to be about the Great Library Fire at the Central Library in LA in 1986. I very much believe this was going to focus on the true crime elements of that story, with maybe a little bit of the library's history thrown in, obviously, so we can get a fully rounded picture, and like the history of the man who was accused, or at least initially accused, of setting the fire. And so that was the book I thought I was going to be reading. Part of this book is that it is not what I would say is necessarily the central focus. I would even argue that I'm not sure there is a central focus, although I think Susan Orlean's intent was the focus to be just on libraries, the library book, and how they function in our society. And I think maybe someone told her, well, you need something to pull somebody in. So like throw in this this big fire and people want to read it. And while I think Susan Orlean is a competent writer and this is all very well researched, I don't think any of the elements of the story come together very cohesively. I would lose, it would just jump around, and so you would lose the names and the history parts of it. I would just get boggled up in, are we in 1986? Are we back in 1800s? Are we, just talking about libraries in general? I would just sort of be lost from time to time. Part of that may be because I listened to it, so maybe read this one. I don't know, but read this one, a physical version of it. I don't know. I just think that the book was very spread thin and therefore didn't do anything particularly well. And it was a little bit of a letdown. I would give it 3 stars. And I'm going to cull it, so I'm sorry. I feel bad about it, but not bad enough to keep it in my house. I'm currently listening to, the light, I'm sorry, is Miracle Creek. Currently listening to by Angie Kim. This is a courtroom drama, full stop, about a case where some patients were in an oxygen chamber and it exploded and they died. And it's clear that someone set this fire. And it's centered around the trial of the woman accused and all of the various different players that may or may not have done it, and all the secrets that they keep. It's a page-turning, legal thriller, although I don't think it's been particularly thrilling, unfortunately. Easy enough to listen to. I want to know who did it and what happened. I don't particularly care about any of these people, except for maybe the people who died. Maybe that's the point, that they're all kind of doing shitty things to each other and keeping these terrible secrets and are very human at the end of the day, and none of them are fully innocent of just, being good people or being bad. They're all sort of fucked up, right? But I'm just not wowed or very connected to the story in any real way. But I'm going to read it, and I'll let you know if the ending changed any of that. I'm also reading I'm in the middle of Mostly Dead Things by Kristen Arnett. This is literary fiction. I think I've talked about this before. So, it's about a woman in her 30s named Jessa she lives in Florida with her family. They don't have a lot of money. They run a taxidermy business, which is just such a Florida thing. And I grew up in like a place where taxidermy was like I can still smell the inside of like the taxidermy shop I would go into sometimes. It's just such a southern thing. And her father has recently taken his own life. And this is a few months after that. And they're in the middle of grief and grieving her father. Her mother, very interestingly, while grieving her husband, has also sort of been set free from like the constrictions I think her marriage really placed upon her. And so the inciting incident of the story is that Jess's mom has begun making pornographic art out of the taxidermied animals and is working on an installation with this sort of very elegant art lady. And Jess is not happy about any of that. And so it's just getting into these family dynamics. There's another sort of thing that Jess is grieving, basically sort of like the love of her life, who married her brother Milo, Bryn. Bryn has left, both of them, has just left the family, left her children behind, has flown the coop. And so a lot of this really is Jessa like living deeply in her memories of not just her father, but Bryn, and like the complicated relationship she had, sharing Bryn with her brother, being around like Bryn's children as their aunt, then of course like her relationship with her mom and the new elegant art lady that her mom's working with, like starting a relationship with her, and just how all those things come together. I'm in the middle, and I will say the middle's a bit mushy. I think that this is a debut, and I think that a lot of debuts are going to struggle in the middle. I think that would be the most terrifying part of a book is the middle. So I think pacing's a little bit not super great right now. So I'm looking forward to like getting through that and seeing how it ends to see what I'm left with from these people, to decide like ultimately how I feel about it. Because I'm like very much in that I like this, I want to keep reading it, but I don't love it. So that's how that's going. I'm also reading, and it's over there, and it's going to stay over there, is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. So I'm trying to get through some of my more like summary books, and it is very fucking hot here. Like hot. And I just wanted to read a romance, and I thought it was just going to be my bubble bath book, like the book I just pick up on and off when I take a bubble bath, and it would just stay in there on my little bubble bathtub stand. And yeah, that didn't happen, because I was immediately sucked into that thing, and I had heard so many people talk about it positively. I didn't believe any of them, because like I struggle with romance, or just finding ones that I really connect with. But I kept seeing these people who don't read romance being like, I really loved this. So I was like, well, we'll see. Really like daring this book to hook me, and it did. And I'm halfway through, really enjoying it. I know that some people have had problems with the way like the central conflict happens towards the end of the book. I haven't gotten there yet, so we'll see how I feel. But as of right now, it's just like I really like the characters. I'm rooting for them to be together, which is really the ultimate in a romance novel, right? Is you want to like the people and you want them to be together. Yeah. And so that's great. Rom-coms and romance, like more of that. Like there's this movie that's going to be on Netflix. It's got Christina Milian. I forget what it's called. It's at New Zealand. Can't wait for that. And then they released a trailer for Last Christmas with Emilia Clarke and Henry Golding, and I'm very upset that first half the trailer gave away the entire movie. And it does a thing I hate. So I guess I won't spoil it here, but if you've seen the trailer, I don't know how you can't know what the movie's about. But I was really looking forward to it, and now I don't know if I can watch it. So yeah, Henry Golding is a very pretty man, though. Okay, no one wants to hear these things from me. I'm also reading a short story a day from Something Rich and Strange by Ron Rash. I've had this book for a really long time, so this is part of my let's get through the stuff that's been on my TBR for a while, or just clear the shelf space. This is a book I bought at Faulkner Books in New Orleans in 2015, so I've had this book for 4 years. As with pretty much anything written by a man, I don't read a lot of male authors anymore. My first question with them is, do you write women well? And so each story I read in this, and I've only read 2, and I can't say I haven't enjoyed them. I think I have. I think that, these are very realistic, slice of life, character-driven short stories about people living in Appalachia, probably throughout the last 100 years. And they're all talking about, I think, human connection and relationships. And the thing is, if you're talking about that sort of thematically, you can't not include women. And Ron Rash so far is 0 for 2 in his portrayal of women in these stories. All of his stories have been, all his POV characters, all the interiority we've gotten from people have been from men, which is not surprising. But I think what I'm even more upset about is that the women have been they're not, I don't even know that they actually exist. So in the first story, the sort of central woman, female character, they're all been wives. They're all connected to the men, obviously. So the wife of the main male character was presented as a terrible human being who drove away her family. Which, listen, if the next story had really great women, it would have been okay. In the next story, though, the 2 wives are dead. He just got rid of them. They didn't need to exist, because this story is about men, didn't you know? So that if that continues, if the next 2-3 stories there's literally no women worth reading about, I don't know that I'll continue, and I won't feel bad about it. As you can imagine, these are all white men, so there's not a whole lot of representation going on. I know a lot of people will be like, well, it's Appalachia. Okay, so I live on the periphery, just outside of Appalachia, and let me tell you something. Other kinds of people, especially women kinds of people, exist there. And they're not all terrible dead people. And then finally, I got Inland by Teo Brecht. This came out on Tuesday. The Tiger's Wife, which was her debut novel, the only other book she's written besides this one, came out in 2011 or 2012, I think 2011, a while ago now. And I loved it. It was one of the first books when I was sort of really getting involved in the online bookish community. I think right around when I started my blog, maybe it was one of the first books I ever wrote about. It has such a place, a special place with me, and how much I loved it, and how much I verbalized how much I loved it to the general public. And I've just waited so long. I would constantly just kind of Google, Teo Brecht new book or whatever, eagerly anticipating. And I've had this pre-ordered for months. I've been so excited. And I'm not going to read it. I'm not starting it. I'm reading too many things right now. And I don't like to read 2 literary fictions at once. So once I finish Mostly Dead Things, you bet your ass this is the next one I'm going to read. And I'm so excited. I've heard nothing but good things from people I trust. It takes place in the Arizona territory. So it's a Western, which is completely different from The Tiger's Wife. And I'm just so excited. So anyway, that's my life in books this week. Let me know down below what you're reading. How's your week going? Just anything you want to tell me down there. Let's just chat. If you've read any of these books, let me know what you think. If you're also excited about Taylor Beck's new novel, like, fangirl below with me. And until next time, have a happy reading life, guys.